Now, I began this morning with a 4-letter word on my mind. It's been that kind of a morning already. Two 4-letter words that kept coming up this morning. I'm just going to be honest about it. Keep it real, right? Keep it real. Keep it real, Pastor. All right. The first one was hope. Right? Right? And the second one is then, as in, as soon as this happens, then everything will be all right. As soon as we pay off the mortgage, then we'll start taking some vacations. As soon as the children grow up, then we'll pay more attention to our relationship. As soon as I graduate, as soon as the holidays are over, as soon as this illness is behind us, then, as soon as this and that and the other things, then everything is going to be all right. Now here's my point. There's a big difference between hope and postponement. All right, stay with me for a minute here. It's one thing to hope when hope is hard to find, and it's a whole nother thing to use hope as a way to postpone and delay. Too many of us live in anticipation of what's next and then fail to be alive now. I know a little bit about this subject because I've done it many times. We all do. I remember when I was in graduate school, I was working so hard between my schoolwork and my internship and my other activities that I used to tell my girlfriend, Anitra, who's now my wife and my girlfriend, thank God. It's important to remember that wife is, it doesn't always sound romantic. It could sound like a 4-letter word, wife, 4-letter word, but now girlfriend sounds romantic somehow. But once we're married, our spouse is our only legitimate source of romance, and that's why sometimes it's important to remember that our spouse is if you're me, is my wife and my girlfriend. I used to tell her, though, back when she was only my girlfriend, I'd say, honey, as soon as I graduate and I'm ordained, as soon as, I will, then I will stop pulling all-nighters, working throughout the night on term papers, and I'll stop working through the weekends and through my vacations. Oh, you can tell where this is going, can't you? You know me too well. But then I became a minister. And those first few years, I have to tell you, I spent many long Saturday nights up all night working on a sermon. Worried it wasn't going to be good enough. I had to keep working on it. All these people were going to come and hear me, and it needed to be just right. So I'd spend all night working on my message, and I wouldn't manage my time well enough during the week, so I'd often be working evenings, and I'd be working on my day off. Now I'm much better about that now. I almost never stay up all night working on a message, and I always take my vacations and my days off, but mostly because I want to stay married, and because I want my children to know who I am. But I know how easy it is to get misguided and deluded by that ubiquitous 4-letter word, then. Hope is spelled with 4 letters, but they're not T-H-E-N. Hope is spelled, well, you know how hope is spelled. But it's easy to make postponement and anticipation into a way of life, right? It's one thing when we're going through a hard time, right? When we're grieving the death of a loved one, when we're going through a breakup or a divorce, when we've just lost our job or destroyed our reputation or had a house fire. I'm looking at you too. To cultivate a sense of hope that things won't always feel like this. They won't always be like this. But we have to grieve today. We have to do today in order that there be hope for a better day tomorrow. Our hope for tomorrow comes from our actions today. That's why our essential hope is not about what's going to come then, but it's about what we do right now. It's seductive to focus our life on an image in our minds of tomorrow, because then we never have to worry, because tomorrow never comes. Because then our whole life is based on imagination and not reality. What's the expression? Reality is for people who don't have a good enough imagination, or something like that. The renowned Disciples of Christ minister, Fred Craddock, he put it this way. He said, sometimes we'd rather hope than have. So we talk of hoping, and yet we delay and postpone. It's understandable, he says, because it's a whale of a lot easier to hope that the Messiah will come and make everything perfect and right, rather than believe that one has already come. He explained how back in biblical times, every story began with the same phrase, and it wasn't once upon a time. It was, when the Messiah comes. A poor mother would say it, trying to comfort her hungry children because all they have are scraps on the dinner table to eat again. But kids, when the Messiah comes. The beggar's tale always began with, sorry, when the Messiah comes. How many fathers in those days said it while trying to console their devastated daughter who'd been assaulted by a Roman soldier, patting her on the shoulder and saying, now, honey, when the Messiah comes. And how about the countless beautiful little Samaritan children who came home confused and humiliated after being called names, not because of something that they did, but because of who they were, and told that they were just another no good nothing like all the rest of their kind. They were just children being treated like they were less than human. And their parents choking back their rage and wiping away their children's tears while trying to hide their own. And explaining, just wait, my dear, when the Messiah comes. So you can just imagine that when John the Baptist and the other forerunners of the Messiah would come and say that the kingdom of heaven is at hand. In our lifetime, people came out in droves. They left dishes in the sink, beds unmade, fields half plowed. And they rushed to hear of the coming of the Lord. And then when Jesus came and he began to heal and he began to preach, one day he asked his disciples, who do they say that the Son of Man is? And his disciples explained that some say he's John the Baptist. Others say Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the other prophets. In these days, it was thought that it was one like this who would arrive first to announce the coming of the Messiah. Most people did not want to believe that Jesus was the Messiah, because sometimes it's better to hope than to have. If he was the Messiah, what about all those expectations? If the Messiah is here and I'm still hungry and homeless and helpless, if the Messiah has come and wars and corruption continue, then what? Once Jesus came, the disciples, they were prepared to march with him into Jerusalem and bring about the kingdom of heaven on earth. But Jesus kept stopping to heal the lame and the lepers. How were they ever going to build the kingdom if he kept stopping to help people? It was a distraction. When they stopped for a break and they finally had a moment to gather and to talk and to plan, mothers would rush in with their children so that they could see him, and the children would be loud and boisterous until one of the disciples would yell, "Get these children out of here. We've got important things to do." But Jesus would say, "Suffer the little children to come unto me and forbid them not, for of such is the kingdom of God." And he took them up into his arms and he put his hands upon them and he blessed them. What do we do if after a long time we finally get what we hoped for and it's not exactly what we expected it to be? We can spend our whole lives looking for something and then be disappointed when it arrives. That's why for some people, Christmas is the saddest day of the holidays. Sometimes it's better to hope than to have. And if we spend our lives looking for the Messiah, we can make him or her exactly as we want. If we're hungry, the Messiah will bring plenty. If we're blind, sight. If we're lonely, he will bring real community. Or as Craddock says, sometimes it's easier to dream of a Messiah than to have our dreams exploded by anyone, even the Messiah. Looking forward all the time can be a form of avoiding what is. We can look forward all of our lives to having a spiritual community that is truly open and intelligible. We can look forward to having a church that's focused on real issues of faith and justice in our times. We can wish for a church that uses democracy rather than hierarchy and ecclesiastical authority. We could wish that there's a spiritual community that's open to teaching not only from the Bible, but also from other world religions and Greek mythology, and a church that's open to yoga from India and Tai Chi from China and meditation from Buddha and worship from Christianity and openness to Judaism and has respect for nature and science and the interdependent web of all life. We can wish for a church that considers women as equals, that truly strives to repair the divisions between the races, and that opens its doors and its arms to full participation of our lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender brothers and sisters. We can wish for a place where we can bring our real questions without reproach or rebuke. We can wish for a community to raise our children where they will not be indoctrinated and made to feel guilty or ashamed or judgmental. And a place that will meet our grief with love and not with platitudes. Or tell us that this is not the real life. Your real life is yet to come. We can wish for all these things, and then we can find it, and we can have it, and then we can fail to believe in it, and fail to support it. Because reality will never fit exactly what we can imagine in our minds. And that's why it's often more satisfying to hope than to have. Looking forward can also be a postponement of all the problems that are before us. Right here at All Souls, we can dream. We can dream of a new campus in downtown that will have everything we want in it. Classrooms big enough with space to create real community. A location where we can truly reach out to people of all cultures and classes. For the next few years, we can start every sentence with the words, when the new church is built, then we can grow our membership, invite our friends. When we move downtown, then we can really start welcoming our guests properly. Once we have our new church, then we'll be able to address the real urban issues in this city. Then we'll be able to offer a powerful example of love beyond belief. You see, he's right. It's much easier to believe that the Messiah will come than to believe that the Messiah has already come. There's always enough injustice and pain in the world to make the argument that a Messiah will someday come. And there's always enough injustice and pain in the world to argue that the Messiah has not yet come. But the whole point of the Messianic age, the whole point of a Messiah coming at all, is to turn the world and all of its expectations on its head. Dr. Craddock tells us that in a world that says, wherever the Messiah is, there will be no misery, has been flipped to say, wherever there's misery, there the Messiah is. It's a reversal of the order of things. But most people would rather hope than have. And so many, including many Christians, live with the expectation that Jesus will come back, rather than with the reality that Jesus has already come. Craddock, who is a devout Christian minister, one of the most renowned of the 20th century, says the first great task of the Messiah is to get us to stop looking for one. The first great task of this church, now that we've voted to begin a multi-year process of moving downtown, is to make sure that our new building and our new location doesn't turn into a new Messiah. Not then, but now is the time for us to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, heal the sick, and educate our children. Not then, but now is the time to engage in urban ministry. Not then, but now is the time to build a congregation of all colors and cultures and creeds. Not then, but now. Now is the time. Postponement is merely an imitation of hope. Too many people get addicted to anticipation of what's to come. They live for tomorrow instead of living today. Our hope comes not from a fantasy of what tomorrow will look like. Real hope comes from making good decisions today, right now, with our lives, with our church. Hope starts right now by what we do. Our job is to make sure that the ministry of this church continues to grow stronger and deeper and wider right now, right where we are. And not to let visions and hopes of tomorrow keep us from living today. I'm as excited as anyone about the possibilities of what it will mean and what it will be like to move our church into the downtown in this city. But we all know that the church is not a building. It's the people. It's the people. So we all know that our church is not going to be built. Our church is already here. God bless you. Amen.